What is up, guys? My name is Dom. If you're new here, this is Faith Family Homestead, and we are going to do another garden tour for the month of June. I've done garden tours, I think, ever since the month of February, March, April, May, and now it is time for the June garden tour. And I am so excited for this garden tour because so much has changed since May. I think I have all the beds filled. Maybe, actually no, I have two right here that I already harvested potatoes out of and I didn't replant them. But majority of the beds in here are full. They're stuffed, ready to harvest. So it would be our, first, summer harvest. We're really excited. I have my daughters out here with me, and we are going to harvest some of the stuff that I showed you at the beginning of this video, because I definitely have some peppers that are ready. I have a cucumber that my daughter's been dying to pick, some bush beans, and so let's get into the tour. So we must begin this tour with my Belinda's Blush Rose. I just planted this out, did a video on it, how I planted this out in these containers. This is a thornless arbor rose that will grow up and cover this, and this cattle panel, and I'm hoping that it would just look as pretty as could possibly be, especially with the new color gate that I have. All of these pots that you see are trees that I ordered from Stark Brothers, as well as fastgrowingtrees.com, and then I think Tai, Georgia. I'll leave the links to where I got all of these trees from, but they are all doing well. They were bare root trees. We planted them in containers and they are all sprouting. I do have some echinaceas that I got on clearance that were dying last year, and now they've come back to life and I need to plant those. Blueberry bushes. I have some mint that are in containers. There's grapes. There are banana trees over here. We have citrus like lemon, grapefruit, and clementine. So that's all of these trees right over here. So the reason why all of these trees are scattered all over is because me and my kids, well actually I laid down the cardboard, and then I had my son bringing in wood chips, and so we were using the trees to keep the cardboard from blowing away until he got all of the wood chips on here. So that's why they're all spread all over. But once my son gets all of the wood chips down on the cardboard, then they'll all be in one section, because over there, I'll turn you around and show you, is where my actual orchard's gonna be. But I wasn't ready to plant these just yet. I just noticed that this grape is full of aphids, so we'll have to do something about that. That is disgusting. All those little black dots are aphids. So on the opposite side of my garden and my driveway is where I already have about 12 fruit trees. So we have apples. We have one pear, because that's all I had at the time, 3 plums, and then 4 peaches. We're moving our meat chickens through here because grass had grown through, and so they've been working their way down. They have about a week or two before we butcher them. But there is a peach actually growing here. If it goes to full maturity, this will be our first fruit off of our own tree. And so this whole area over here is where I want to plant all of those fruit trees that are in the buckets over there, but we need to fence this area in so it's not ready, so that's why they're sitting in buckets over there. But we're gonna head back to the garden and let my daughters pick these fruits, because they are following me, asking me about picking these fruits. It's been ready for about 2 or 3 days, but I've been waiting to do this video so that I could show you guys our first summer harvest. Okay, what do you want to pick first?
The cucumber. That cucumber.
Okay.
Is that long one ready?
No, that long one's not ready, but we'll pick this one.
Wow, so fast.
So this is a Space Master cucumber, so the vine only gets about 2 feet long. You're gonna pick it. Hold it right there and pull it off.
Oh.
Good job. Can I see? What are we gonna make with that?
Eat it.
Just eat it?
A salad?
Salad? Okay. So right here we have our Dollar Tree containers that we planted bush beans in, and we have lots of bush beans ready that my daughter has been dying to pick. So Anaya, you ready to pick them?
I leave that one.
Yeah, we're gonna leave that one to get bigger, but you can pick the bigger ones.
Well, that was a spider on that one.
Okay.
This one. I see that one.
You see one right here? We'll let that one get a little bigger. So in this bed, there are actually, these are my spicy pepper bed. There's about 3 there. There's a bunch here.
I see one thing.
And so this one is Santa Fe Grande, which are these yellow ones right here. But then this one over here is called Hungarian Yellow, and these 3 are ready. I don't want to mix up my spicy peppers with regular peppers, so I bought out, these chili peppers are so cute. So I brought out that glass container, so we'll put the peppers in there so we know that these are spicy. So
I leave a little stand for it.
yep. Good job. Put it in the basket.
Mommy, this is on my bed.
Take it up. Take off your boot if there's something on your boot. Cool. So our next stop is the shishito peppers right here. So we have 2 right here, and then we have one right here that we're gonna harvest. I don't know the name of these. All the peppers I don't know the name of because I lost tags, but I do know these are shishitos. So that's what I planted.
This was a snack one.
Soon we'll be picking many peppers over here because there's lots and lots of peppers I see. So that's really exciting.
Oh, I heard that one's big.
Yeah.
Weird shape though.
So I have this cue ball squash in this container. It actually looked like it has died, or the soil's moist. But anyway, we're gonna harvest this right here. Maybe we'll plant another seed in there.
Whoa, that's big.
That's so cool.
It's bigger than I expected it would
Okay,
be.
put it in here. So I planted 3 beds of corn, and they are different types of corn. So we have sweet corn, we have popcorn, and then we have grinding corn. I got a lot of comments on that video when I planted this out about them cross-pollinating, and if they are not going to be ready at the same time, then they will not be able to cross-pollinate, meaning like if one's a 85-day variety, one's a 100-day variety, then they can't cross-pollinate because they pollinate from the tassels falling down and touching each other. Down this row right here, we have tomatoes, and then we have some marigolds or basils in between the tomatoes, and then we have peppers in the front of them. I need to come out here and trim my tomatoes, but a lot of them are setting fruit and they need to be tied up. This blossom right here, there's about 3 of them, and they kind of look fasciated, like multiple blossoms in one. So we have a bunch of different varieties of tomatoes here. I did not write, actually I lost the tags for these tomatoes, so they're mystery plants at this point. Down here we do have a cluster of tomatoes there, cluster of tomatoes there, here. So this plant is doing really good. Down here we have another cluster. I have basil going to seed that I need to trim. More tomatoes. So lots of baby tomatoes forming down this row. We planted lots of bush beans here, and in the front we planted some melons. Then on this side we planted again watermelon, another melon here. This is where I took out the parsnips and I planted some squash in here. So we have acorn squash that haven't came up yet. Those 3 beds are new and they are empty. I replanted sunflowers, pro-cut sunflowers here and pro-cut sunflowers here. But then on these 2 trellises, as you can see, these are both cucumber plants. And you can see a cucumber down there. At the ends, I planted mammoth sunflowers, so that should be cool to see. On this trellis, again, cucumbers, cucamelon here, sunflower at the end, but then I have zinnias in this bed. I think that's going to look really pretty. On those 2 beds, I have bush green beans, but this bed, well, that bed is all green beans that are green. This one are colorful ones like dragon tongue bush beans and ones that would be purple and pink and stuff like that. In this bed, this is a perennial bed, and so it has nothing but perennial bulbs that I got from like Walmart and like dahlias and stuff, and planted them in here. This cross, massive cross, we just added this pine straw in here, or pine shavings. This is over 350 strawberry plants, and at the corners right there I have big borage plant. That borage plant fell over. It was up to my waist and it finally fell over. And I am trying a melon in a container, which was only supposed to get like 3 feet long, so that should be really cool. And at the corner of each of the strawberry beds I have dwarf tomatoes here. On this cattle panel right across from in front of the green beans, I planted just maybe less than a week ago some winter squashes, and I think that would be really pretty to grow up this trellis. But in the front I planted watermelons. So we have 2 that have come up and 1 more that we're waiting on, and I just think it would look pretty to grow out this way. In these log raised beds, this first one, I have nothing but peppers, and then I have tomatoes along the front, as well as some marigolds in between. This used to be my brassica bed, so you still see some stragglers. I was keeping this in here to see how long I can keep it in here to get ahead, but it's definitely hot, so we'll see how long I can keep that going. This is all peppers that I grew from seed, but I lost the tag, so basically mystery peppers. And then when I ran out of peppers, I went to the store and got just bell peppers. So the rest down here are bell peppers. But we do have lots of tomatoes growing. This bed is my indeterminate bed of tomatoes. So this tomato right here is called a Grand Marshal. And then we have Ace 55. I know we have some Florida 91. And right across from it, this was my bachelor button bed. And then we have snapdragons at the end. And I went ahead and had some leftover tomatoes that I ended up putting here. And I cleaned out this bed and so that the tomatoes could have a better chance at growing, and they seem to be doing well. This was the last tomato that I planted in this bed. I had leftover lilies, and so I planted them right here, and I had a scraggler flower that I didn't know where to put, so I put it here, and it has already blooming. In here I planted dwarf okra plants, and they're coming up. They're only supposed to get about 3 foot tall, so that's really good. And right here I had these red onions, but we harvested them yesterday. We actually forgot to bring them inside. There's more over here behind this marigold, and then we covered it with these pine shavings. And then this is just beautiful snapdragons. Then this last bed, we had a really heavy rainstorm and it snapped that tomato in half, so that tomato is a goner. But then we have our indeterminate tomatoes, and they have tomatoes on them. I do need to trellis this up. This tomato right here is called an egg tomato, and you can see by the shape they're so pretty. But these are all indeterminate, meaning that they'll grow as long as they have space for it. And so we have this arch trellis, and on the opposite side of it Again, this was my brassica bed, so I have this brassica that have just been sitting there, but I also planted pumpkins in here. So we have, and I will have to thin those 2 pumpkins. I just planted 2 seeds. And these 2 beds are my asparagus patch, so I have green asparagus and purple asparagus. And then right across from them, I have this whole bed that I planted with, I think 6 maybe watermelons in here, down here. But then I have 1 hollyhock that I planted from seed and it made it. And then the rest is lilies. I have a delphinium, I have echinacea, and then I also have in between are the pineapple ground cherries. I have 3 of them. So they're looking really good. So I did a video where I planted out pumpkins in this bed. I planted 8 pumpkins in this bed, and they are starting to come up, which is why I didn't mulch this whole bed, because there's probably 2 still that haven't come up. At the same time I had probably 13 tomato plants left over, and so I went ahead, put this trellis up where my onions used to be, and we didn't mulch the rest because I did plant some nasturtiums in between, and that one's popping up, and so I will finish mulching when the nasturtiums come up in the middle. But then down here I planted pumpkin here, and down along this side I planted watermelons. Along the front perimeter of my gate I did have just throw some tomato plants in here, as well as some cucumbers. These are dried peas that I need to harvest the seeds from. You can tell that they are dry, you can hear it, and there will be peas in there. So these are shelling peas that I need to harvest. But I did throw in tomatoes here. I planted another one here just to see if they would make it. And then there's one here and one here. This one is definitely the biggest one and seems to be growing pretty well, but I just threw some compost down there and planted it. Down here there's cucumber. Actually, I didn't even know there was a cucumber down here ready to harvest. You see it? It's right there. And this one was called a, let's see, oh, there's 2 cucumbers here. A pickling cucumber. So we have 2 pickling cucumbers ready to be harvested here, and I didn't even know. So one here. How can I get that one? That's on the outside of the gate. So there's another Space Master cucumber here. I didn't even know. Producing a cucumber. My son will have to go on the outside of the gate to get that one. I didn't know that was there. But then we have a cucumber plant here, and that one's producing cucumbers as well. We have right there. So in this bed I have leeks as well as potatoes. I had Swiss chard in here and I thought they all died, but there's actually a Swiss chard here. So we have a random Swiss chard plant in here too. Yesterday I actually saw a tomato hornworm on my potato plants, and I couldn't believe it. It seems so early for tomato hornworms to be out, and I've actually never seen them on potato plants. Even though I know they're in the nightshade family, that's just never happened to me personally. And so I went checking all of my tomatoes. I didn't see any more, but it was that one, and it was really big. So definitely on the lookout for tomato hornworms. Y'all, squash bugs is congregating on this potato plant. That's like 5 squash bugs together. Have to get that. Along the fence here in these next 3 beds I planted pole beans, and so they seem to be doing good. In this first bed I planted 5 squash in here. I had transplanted 4 of them and planted from seed 1 that hasn't come up yet. They are yellowing, so maybe I should fertilize them. Then at the end of this corner I planted watermelons. So 1 has come up and 1 has not come up. And in the next bed I went ahead and planted squash again, and since it was so late I planted 2 per hole, and this one did not come up yet. This whole bed is full of sunflowers. We planted teddy bear dwarf sunflowers as well as sunflower Steve's legacy seeds, the Van Gogh I planted them in here together. Right here we have another bed of potatoes. I had some turnips here that we harvested, and so I planted some more potatoes in here, so that's why there's an empty spot lagging behind, and then another bed of potatoes. I had pole beans in here that did not make it, and I transplanted a market more cucumber that seems to be doing good, and planted dwarf zinnias in the front, and the germination is sparse. Down here I have 2 tomato plants. I have pineapple ground cherries, 3 of them, and then these are purple tomatillos. I don't see any tomatillos forming, and this looks like sunburn, which is so interesting. But that's what that looks like. On this trellis right here, I have melons, and then at the corners I have sunflowers. Same thing for here, melons and then sunflowers. But then I did plant some squash in here, so we have some squash coming up. Right here in this bed, this is all bell peppers. I had a bunch of bell peppers left over, and so I just decided to plant them here with 3 tomato plants. And then in this space, I had my son plant a bunch of nasturtiums, but none of them germinated. You can see there's a seed right there, so that's very interesting. Here, there are potatoes, because I had my daughter plant potatoes right here, and then I told my other daughter to plant bush beans, and she forgot that I told her potatoes was here, so that's why we have potatoes or beans growing on top of potatoes. But then on the front of the trellises, we have pole beans and pole beans. And it's the same thing on this trellis. There's pole beans, but we have okra growing here and sunflowers on the opposite side. And I did go ahead and plant some squashes here, and I can see one has already came up, as well as I planted squash on this side of the trellis. This side of the trellis already had squash that I had started from seed, and I just transplanted them here, and they seem to be doing pretty good and growing. This bed has become like my catch-all flower kind of bed when I have extras. So we have bulbing perennial flowers. I also had, I think this was called celosia, maybe. I had a leftover cucumber that I put here. This is a cucumber, and you can see it has the long cucumbers, super long cucumbers. I think it is called an Asian long cucumber. Let's see the name. Yeah, so Hisea long cucumber. In this pool, I have ginger that I bought, organic ginger, and just planted them here. And I just had planted a random sweet potato vine here just to see how that would do. In my Dollar Tree containers, I do have strawberries in them, cucumbers, I have bush beans, I have herbs, I have flowers like dwarf zinnias. I also have some dwarf tomatoes in some of them. So down here you can already see there's little tiny tomatoes growing, which is really cool. On this trellis we have zinnias in the back, and then on the front we have melons. Over here we have melons, sunflowers in the corner, and just maybe a few days ago I had these sweet potato slips that bugs had gotten to, but I decided to plant them anyway and see what happens. And so sweet potatoes in here, and I had melons right here. This bed was empty, so I decided to plant squash in here. There are winter squash. So this one is a Pennsylvania Dutch crookneck, so we have 2 of those. And then we have 2 spaghetti squash, and those are winter squash, so they'll vine and hopefully take over this whole area here. I've said in the past that this was my favorite bed, just how full and pretty it looks. It is my hot pepper bed with a marigold, and we have basils here. These both were dwarf basils, and you can see that they're going to seed, and I'm going to let them go to seed because they're so pretty. But I am going to chop down my other basils so that they can keep producing for me. And you saw me harvest peppers off of here earlier. Oh, I didn't realize my daughter had snipped the plant, so that's fine. It'll just bush out. Then behind this bed is another bed that I love. It was a catch-all of flowers that I grew from seed. So this bunch right here are zinnias, but I planted these lilianthus from seed in November, and they are finally about to open. So we have a few of them in here as well. I know we have cosmos in here. We have bells of Ireland, which I've never grown before, but it looks really good. I know we have pincushion, and I'm not sure what this is called, but I feel like it was something with a B. But if I find out, I'll put the name on the screen, but it's so pretty. This bed has snapdragons that didn't really do good. I have some weeds in here. I'm pretty sure there must be, what are they called, grubs in here, because the other two beds that I had to dig out, there were grubs in here, and so I'm pretty sure there's grubs in here, and that's what's stunting these snapdragons. But I will dig them out and get all the grubs like I've been doing and replant this bed with summer crops. I did do a video where I put down nematodes as well as milky spores in all of my beds, but that does take a while. It says it's like at least 2 weeks before you start seeing results, and it's really like a long-term solution. And so the beds that I was digging up since then, I could see that some grubs were dead because they'll be a different color, but there were still lots of thriving alive ones. And so each bed that I feel like is not doing good, what I'm doing is just pulling out whatever plant that is and then digging it up, taking the grubs out, adding some more milky spores or nematodes, and then replanting it. Here in South Carolina, I'm in coastal South Carolina, zone 8B. I have a long growing season, and so it does not faze me to take out a plant that I feel is not doing good and replant it. We're still only at the beginning of June. We still have July, August, September, October. Our first frost isn't until probably the first week in November. We have this strawberry that's ready, and we've been if my kids are not eating the strawberries fresh, then I have them pick them, and then we take off the tops and freeze them to make jam later. So at the moment I probably have 3/4 of a half gallon full of strawberries, of my homegrown strawberries, and I'm so happy about it. In this cup right here, I have more sweet potato slips that I put in here, and so that they can grow roots, and you can see the grown roots. And I plan on planting them in my planter that you guys seen me spray paint and I did a giveaway on. I'm going to actually fill that and plant some sweet potatoes slips in here, as well as bush beans and maybe even a squash. Look what I just found on my tree right here. What tree is this? This is a cherry tree. There's probably 10 cucumber beetles right here. I have to get them. So back here is a little bit of a mess. Like I said, we are still putting down cardboard, and my son's bringing over wood chips, which he's doing right now. But we have these bins that I planted garlic and onions in that have nothing in them right now. We have the kiddie pools, only one has ginger in it, that I thought about planting maybe winter squash in them so that they could vine out in this back area right here. But I need to finish getting this area done and getting all my fruit trees into one spot. So right now they're just all over, like I have already shown you. But when I get this area, so he's already filled in that area, when I get this rest of this area filled in, I'll probably have all my fruit trees just in this area. So then all of this will be clear, and then I can organize that area as well. But this is a real life garden. This is really how it looks at the moment, and it's just been so much growth that I just wanted to show you guys. I'm so excited with how full it looks and like what we have going on here, even with the bugs, even though they're driving me crazy. I do not like bugs at all, but I'm still so excited to just see all of the beds so full and green. And I cannot wait to things start like really trellising or growing up the trellis. Right now, you know, the highest we have is probably about a third of the way on those cucumbers, but when they just get majestical in like July or something, it's just gonna be amazing.